Yo, what's up guys? Delaney Wallace, aka World's Strongest Accountant and 2022 IPF 83 kg powerlifting world champion. Have a super special episode for you guys. We're gonna walk through one of my physical therapy sessions, talk about mindset when it comes to being an athlete and staying out of injury and coming back from one. And it should be cool. We're here at Rise Physical Therapy here in White Plains. My man Justin's gonna, show us some good things when it comes to a physical therapy spot, and I think you really enjoy it. Let's go. What's good, brother? Hey, Van, long time no see.
Good.
Yo, guys, this is my main man, Justin Veda, Arise Physical Therapy. Introduce yourself, let people know what you do, man.
Hey guys, my name is Justin. I'm the founder of Rehab Physical Therapy. Pretty much help our athletes stay pain-free and injury-free, just improve their mobility, and just allow them to keep lifting and just keep moving. Yeah.
Lord knows he's saved my rear end too many times behind the scenes. So today we're just gonna go through a quick physical therapy session. We're gonna have some conversations about just like mindset when it comes to powerlifting, being an athlete, coming back from injuries, staying injury-free.
Yeah, definitely.
And I think it's gonna be a good one. So let's get it. So like one thing about like kind of like me being in the shadows for most of my powerlifting career is like people don't see the highs, but they also don't see the lows, right? And so not many people know like the injuries that we've kind of battled through and fought through, like leading up to like all of this. I want to say like what was like 2018 and 2019, I had like a really bad groin injury that just like plagued me every time I hit the hole of a squat. I had some knee things that were happening. I had some back injuries that came in, but really it was the groin that kind of lingered throughout all of it. And like it's like working with you, we found out that it kind of made other things happen.
Exactly.
And then I had like the elbow tendonitis with like bench and all of that. Yeah, there's been like a whole bunch of just little things that have happened. Not a bunch of like big things that like I'm out for like months, but like little things that can really kind of set you back. So just like walk through like 2019 up until now, like what was the game plan in like staying healthy, getting healthy, and all of that?
So from my standpoint, like the first injury I've ever seen you for, you came in for your elbow.
Yeah.
And that you had just, I don't know, it was from benching, but you also felt it when you were squatting too, just from being that. So with that, it was fairly simple. It was mainly coming from your shoulder and lack of shoulder mobility. But I think the biggest thing was your groin. I think that you had for like 3 years or so, right?
Yeah.
Prior to seeing me. So like every time you hit the hole, your whole body literally shifted away from that groin to avoid the injury, which led to the like opposite knee to hurt as well. So I think like the biggest thing when it came to like rehabbing your groin is just staying consistent and patient, right? Like injuries like that don't get better in like a day or two or in a session or two, like just like how we realized we're like, it's not 1 or 2 sessions, right? It's being consistent with just mobility, right? Mobility first. And then once that mobility increases, just stabilizing the crap out of it, I think. And we were consistent for I think it was about like 3-4 months, right?
Yeah.
Of like mobility work and stability work. And it's honestly, people like, sometimes I want things to happen super, super quickly. Like, all right, 1 or 2 sessions, you're pain free, you're good to go. But hey, some of these injuries, if they've been over a year old, like it takes time. So it's decreasing load when it comes to like, hey, squatting, benching, and deadlifting. So you're not like backing weight completely, but hey, you're being mindful of like, hey, when do I add the mobility stuff in? When do I add the single leg stability stuff? And then, hey, just being consistent and patient, right? And being consistent and patient and just slowly progressing. And I think that's honestly what was for that groin, where I remember for a couple months, we're like, holy crap, this thing is still aggravating. But hey, as we stood consistent for 3 to 4 months, we honestly now it doesn't even bother you anymore at all, dude.
Yeah.
It's not even an inkling. I don't know the last time you complained about that.
Yeah, so that's a funny thing. And like the thing that I like that you said the most was the consistency part of it. Because I had a really bad habit, like a lot of athletes do, where like the second I started to feel a little bit better, I would stop doing like the pre-warm-up stuff. I would stop doing all the things that got me healthy. And then I would be back like 2 months later, like, yo, I'm in just excruciating pain. And so one thing that I think is extremely important just for athletes in general is like, we talk so much about how hard we work like on the platform or in the gym, like while we're actually working out and lifting weights. And like, that's the easy part, but it's like the nutrition, the physical therapy, the stretching, the rehab, the active mobility, the little things that are just annoying that keep us healthy. That's when you really find out how hard you're working. And I think it was like the beginning of last year, the end of maybe 2021, where like it really just clicked finally for me. And I'm just like, hey, like I need to do this all the time, not some of the time. And then, shoot, when I walked in, I was like, hey, bro, like I'm pretty good. Like
You
there's
did
really
pretty
not
good,
much
yeah.
going on, besides like little things here and there, but that's pretty cool.
Exactly.
So yeah, I mean, right now, really my knee, and my right shoulder are the things that like kind of a little something going on. The
Exactly.
knee that we worked on a little bit. I came back from the Olympia, and like just during one of like my warm up sessions, like it just started like bothering me. But this is pretty much gone actually.
Cool.
I feel it a little bit when I'm in deep in the hole of the squat, but like with warm ups, I'm pretty good. And then just my shoulder or like my
Yeah.
pec, it's just really tight. Like it's not affecting my bench, but I feel a little bit of like tightness or pain when I'm going like I'm at like the bottom of the
Definitely,
hole
yeah.
in like the bench. But other than that, like I'm pretty healthy. So I mean, we can walk through some
Sounds
stuff,
good.
show some some pre-squat bench
Exactly, yeah.
warm ups and all that, and then call it a day.
Yeah, we'll look through some mobility. The biggest thing is, hey, let's test mobility, see where you're tight. We know you tend to be tight in your lats, your pecs, your upper traps, and we'll work on loosening those up, and then we'll work on some active mobility, because the magic doesn't happen on the table, it happens out there. So
Dope.
cool. All right, we're gonna just test your lat mobility, right? Like, so big key areas for you, like, hey, you bench, you squat, you deadlift, so everything you're rounded, right? So big key areas that I usually see is lat tightness. If I get you here, feel that tightness in through your
Yeah.
shoulder,
Yeah.
right there. If I turn your arm, it goes a lot further, which means that, hey, your lats are ridiculously tight. But let's compare it to your other side where it's not bothering you. So you're gonna be here. See how far this goes. So see how much further this goes compared to the other side, which shows you, hey, this is kind of your normal, and on the other side it's just a lot more tighter. But you still have a lot of tightness on both. You're never gonna be like perfectly symmetric, but hey, where are you off balance, right? I think that's the biggest thing for your hip. Like, where were you off balance? Hands on your stomach. Good. So just by looking at this, you can see shoulder gives in. This one not so much. And you said is at the bottom position, right?
Yeah, so like usually like I'll unrack and I'll feel pretty much good, and then I'll get like, can't do it here, but like I'll get all the way down, and once the bar is like on my chest, like I'll feel, I don't want to say pain, but just discomfort, and I'm like, there's
loaded
something
or
wrong.
not loaded?
Loaded. Loaded.
How like a plate, or you would need significant.
I'll know that something's going on
Even
with the
with
plate
the
with the plate on. It caps out once I get like three reds on,
And you
but
don't feel
it doesn't go past a certain point. Like it'll stay at like a 3 or 4 pain level
throughout
but-
the whole.
like once it caps out.
Okay.
It's just one of those things that like I know something's wrong, so I'm like,
Okay.
all right, if I can get ahead of it, like
Yeah.
let me know.
Actually, can we go out there real quick just to
Yeah.
see how it looks? Do you feel anything?
Yeah, like it almost feels like it's right at the top of my pec,
Like right here at
where a little bit lower and to the right, like we're like right there,
Right
pretty
there.
much,
Okay.
where like my shoulder and like my pec kind of connect.
Okay, cool. Like even when you feel a little bit, I think it's important, like you catching it early and then starting some mobility or stability, whatever it may be,
Yeah.
to just improve that motion, right?
Yeah.
So, at the end of the day, it's just
Because last thing I want to do is wake up in 10 weeks and now I have a problem.
exactly, yeah. I think the biggest thing that most people do is like, hey, we feel something and we try to push past it, and then we push past it for like 3-4 weeks and it's still there. Like we just wait too long to get it checked out, right? I think what happens a lot, you just hope that it just goes away magically, but as you get older, it doesn't go away.
Yeah,
Magically.
I guess like as an athlete, it's like there's a fine line between being like injured and hurt, right?
Yeah.
And so like sometimes like people like, oh, like you feel any ounce of pain, you're like, oh, I'm injured, I can't do this, I can't do that. But really it's just like a little bit of pain that you can work through.
Exactly, yeah.
But then like I happen to be on that other extreme where it's like if I'm not dead, then like like I'm just gonna keep on going.
Exactly, yeah.
And sometimes, just causes more damage.
I always say like, hey, once you start feeling just any type of discomfort, right? Like, I think it's important to just, hey, see where it's coming from, right? So that, hey, the quicker we tackle it, the quicker it heals, right? And quicker modifications that we can make to, hey, help you keep lifting. I think what took the groin a long time was definitely just you putting up and then you just developing tons of compensations.
Yeah.
A ton of compensations. which allowed you to still lift, but these compensations were so hard to break. Like,
Exactly. It's funny now, like I post up like some of my like squats and like my stories, and like random people would just be like, yo, like your squat is just like the form and the technique has just improved so much. And like in my head, I'm like, yeah, I feel like I'm doing the exact same thing. But, you know, just years and years of like shifting to the left or to the right or moving this way or that way so you don't feel pain, you know. You're kind of like, that whole thing is like you're blind to your own strengths, but you're also blind to your own weaknesses.
10 weeks out, how do you feel in general?
I mean, dude, I feel the strongest I've ever been, like ever.
When do you fly?
And like the most like technically efficient too.
What do you mean by technically, like?
Like, example, like the deadlift I showed you, like I always felt like for the past like year and a half, I've always felt like I could pull like 750, right? I thought it was in the range, but like for some reason, I just felt like there was something wrong with like my technique or like something small that I needed to fix in order to be able to actually like execute on it.
Exactly, yeah.
And like right now, like, you know, the squat, bench, deadlift, like everything like just feels like I'm becoming more proficient at like lifting weight opposed to just, you know, being a musclehead and just like forcing it up, you
Exactly,
know?
yeah.
Which is like weird. Like learning
Shows
to
that you're
finesse.
becoming a master at your craft.
Yeah. Only took like 4 or 5 years or whatever, however long it's been.
I think
But,
what do people say? It takes like 30,000 hours of doing one thing to be, hey, really like proficient and kind of a master at it, right? Like,
yeah.
I think what happens, I had a young lifter in the other day, and young lifter me like 3-4 months in, and I always say the first 2 months of anybody lifting, they're gonna make rapid gains, massive gains, right? It's just
Yeah.
that your body's neuromuscular system is just getting used to it, so that you get massive gains. But after those 4 to 6 weeks, 4 to 8 weeks, like you end up like plateauing, and that's when people are like, holy crap, what the hell? And like I think it's reminding people that, hey, it takes time to build up to weight, right? Like how long did it take you to get up to like your like being in the 600s consistently, right? Like it took a few years, right? Like,
Yeah, I mean, it was years of training, like obviously football, like prior to that. And like it was funny, like I was doing an SBD interview and they were like, you know, did you expect to like make it this far in the sport? And like my response was like, yeah, I 100% expected to be here. I just thought it wasn't going to take as long as it would have did. You
dude,
know,
yeah.
like sometimes you actually underestimate the amount of time it actually takes to get something done. And yeah, I mean,
And having that mindset is huge, right? Like, hey, being consistent and just working hard for the long term, right? For the long time, right? Things don't happen within a day or two, but within years and years of the same discipline nonstop. Or I don't know how you have time to work out for 2 to 3 hours, but you feel the difference here, where like
it actually does feel looser.
yeah, you're actually looser now. It's pretty mobile, right?
Yeah,
Pretty even.
for me.
Yeah, but hey,
Mobile for me.
but compared to this side now, like this side's probably a little bit more. You feel the difference? You see a
Yeah.
little more stiffer on this side.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, hey, this stuff you can. There's easy mobility stuff. So I'm gonna release this side just to balance you out, then show you a way to release that you're on your own. So lay on your right side.
Okay.
Bend your elbow. You're gonna reach up to the ceiling. Reaching up there. Okay.
Okay.
Hold it there. Good job. Back. You want to retest that
Yeah.
motion again? How do you feel?
Yeah, I feel a little bit, but not nearly as much.
Not nearly as much.
Yeah.
Hey, if you are concerned with some mobility there, you'll probably feel amazing. Right knee to your chest and lay back down. Yeah, we're just testing, hey, how mobile his quads are. Oh, jeez. If I bend that knee a little bit, you can see, ooh, see how it pops up? Relax. See how your knee comes up?
Mm.
Good. Switch sides. Bring this to you. Good. Good, and relax. There we go. Yeah. Two tight areas in your body. Your quads and your hip flexors. Jeez. So slide up. And your lats.
Yeah.
Feels fun, right?
Hell no. Like I'd never get used to this shit.
I tell when I get work done, I'm like, hey, I don't particularly enjoy it, but I enjoy the results that are associated with it.
Exactly.
There's a purpose behind it. Bend this knee. Your leg is gonna be off. Bend your knee. Good. Straighten your knee. Bend. All the way. And straighten. Bend. Good bend. And straighten. Bend. Straighten. Good. Both legs here. Just check your hip real quick. Most knee pain comes from the hip, typically, but for this time, that's pretty darn good. Cool. The magic doesn't happen on the table, right? Like the magic happens with you being consistently doing this like day in and day out. And then adding stability. So we add mobility, right? Like mobility is like how loose you can be, right? But then within that mobility, you have to add some strengthening to keep it there, right?
Yeah.
So the key is not just stretching, but also, hey, stretch. But then like what strengthening exercise can I do to prevent this from just tightening back up? And that's a key piece, I think. Like the single leg movements are huge, and it's something you as a powerlifter or even like CrossFitters like have a hard. We don't do enough of, right? We don't do enough single leg movements like single leg RDL, single leg step downs, and that's really like is what shows us big asymmetries. Does that feel?
No, this one feels good. I remember in the first video, I was trying to explain what it was, and I had no clue what exactly what. I'm just like, yeah, it stresses me out. I'm good. I haven't had no injuries. I just do it. But can you explain like what exactly this stretch right here?
Yeah. So one of the biggest injuries Delaney was having, it was, hey, tightness in his groin. So this really stretches out your deep groin muscles, right? And usually, hey, a common one that most people do is like, hey, stepping out to the side like this. That's what everyone knows, right? Like these like butterfly stretch. And then, hey, that stretch is like the distal part of your adductor, but this one's really good at stretching like deep inside your adductor, and which in tail will open your hip up. But usually what happens is this adductor gets tight if your glute isn't like firing or kicking in well. So this is the end result of, hey, your hip not working as well or optimally when you're squatting, so turning on your hip. So hey, you can stretch this adductor to loosen your hip joint up, and then you do stability exercises to complete the process of that hip joint just feeling locked and stable. But hey, go right into it. Let me just show you. Hey, the biggest thing I always see people is like, hey, try to be upright facing this way. Once you slouch from me, the pressure is taken off. Being up here, knee here, you should feel that stretch in your groin, right?
Yeah.
And then back up. And a lot of times what happens is their knee caves in like this, you don't feel anything, right?
No.
Hey, keeping your knee just out there. And some people you need to find a different angle for some people. Some people need to be way out here. Some people need to be a little closer. Finding what works for you compared to your other side. And I always do it on both sides. Hey, what does this side feel like to the other side? Can we get it feeling similar, right? Like
this side is definitely way looser.
Yeah, exactly.
But I mean, that's the side that, like, this side's all loose.
Yeah, but I think that tells you a lot. Like, hey, shoot, like, hey, still work on both sides, but can we get it to the point where it's kind of even, right? Like,
yeah,
that's the biggest thing. So, hey, I usually have you do this like 2 sets of 10, 5-second hold
prior to squatting
and
deads.
And deadlifts. Hey, you can stack a couple plates up, but hey, really controlling that downward motion like this, right? Really getting that hip to activate to take the pressure off your groin. And this used to kill your groin. Remember when you just go down, you used to feel it right there? And this is like, hey, where your hip just didn't activate well. So,
absolutely.
So, hey, some people start in like a lower box, right? So we'll see how good you're doing there. The biggest thing is, say, control the motion, barely touch, no pain at all with this, right?
No, it's pretty much like completely gone.
Remember when we first started, like even like 2,
I remember I thought my groin was gonna rip.
Exactly, yeah. But that's why like, these single leg movements like really show you like the difference between both sides, right?
Yeah.
Compared to the other side now. Since that's like the knee that's been bothering you, maybe you need to do it on this side. How's that feeling here?
The groin's fine on this side, but I do feel just because the forward, like,
yeah, you feel the knee a little bit, right?
Forward, I feel the knee just a little
Which
bit.
means
I know
that
it's
hey,
there a little.
which means that, hey, this is probably something, actually, come off. Hey, this is probably something you need to work on for your last knee.
Okay.
Just to build that stability back up. So come back here. Go for it. Feels a little bit better, right?
Yeah, definitely easier.
So starting here, maybe like a set or two, and then progressing up as but you should feel your glute engage there, right?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, so this will offload the pressure here, but you also need to work on the, hey, good. So that's a great stability exercise, but for your like a good warm up too, just to get your glutes on fire before you get under squat.
Yeah.
Cool.
My biggest struggle was like consistently doing some of like the pre-squat bench and like deadlift things, like warm-ups and things of that nature. I see a lot of people, they're doing like 50, 20 different exercises before like the lift. Like what's your philosophy? Like I know that we kept it super simple,
exactly,
but I'm not sure like what's your mindset on it?
I think everyone is different, right? So I think everyone that comes in where for you specifically, right? I think nothing more than 3 to 4, like 4 movements, right? You shouldn't be doing a whole workout before you squat or bench. I think it takes away from your squat, if anything, right?
Yeah.
So, but I think for each person that comes in, it's finding what works for them, right? You always see me that like, hey, I do an exercise and then I retest immediately. Hey, did that exercise work, right? So dialing in, hey, what are 2 or 3 or 4 simple movements? Like ideally like 2 mobility movements. If it's your hip, right? If it's your hip, we were like, all right, what are 1 or 2 mobility to get that hip loose? But then what are 1 or 2 stability? The best stability exercises for you to, hey, lock in your hip, lock in that groin so that it's nice and loose and stable before you squat. So ideally, like, hey, I say nothing more than 2 to 4, right? And for you, I think it's like, hey, with your groin, like, hit these 2 movements to warm your hips up, maybe 1 more. But I think everyone is different. I'm always testing and retesting, right? Like a client comes in, your shoulder hurt, right? Test what makes it worse. Do a mobility, see if it gets better. Yeah, sweet. Right, that's your mobility drill. And then I add a stability to that. So I think it's just tailoring it to each client. Each client is different. Everyone's not cookie cutter, right?
Yeah.
So I think it's ideally like 2 to 4 movements that get some loose, get some mobile and stable, and then just jump right into the squat. And the squat progression should warm you up too.
Yeah.
Okay, we added tempos, right? We added tempos, we added pauses at the bottom, right? Like at the end of the day, the bottom position was a tough position for you, right? Finding stability down there. So pausing that, tempoing it so that you engage your hips properly. So that in itself is a warm up too. So you can call that a warm up as well.
Yeah.
So I think, hey, you don't need to do a whole workout. Find what works for each person. And I got to say, like, I worked with a ton of powerlifters and a ton of CrossFitters, and everyone's different, man. Like we see a general trend, but I think it's, hey, finding what works for you and finding a good practitioner that's willing to work with you to find what's best for you.
100%.
Yeah.
I mean, I think like that's a good talking point. Like I think for most powerlifters, like what is it called? Like they have to learn how to kiss, right? Like everybody, like I see all these different things where like we're doing 30 different warm-ups and accessories and stretches and all these different things. And like if you just learn how to kiss, like keep it simple, stupid.
Yeah.
It just makes life so much easier because it's like me personally, like I'm not doing 30 different exercises prior to working out. Like I just won't do anything. And so I think finding that fine balance between the two of like doing the bare minimum that you need to make sure that you're warm and ready to go, and then like overdoing it, because I just think that people have a tendency to just overthink things too much. I think that's a big point when it comes to like staying healthy, being healthy, staying healthy, and just progressing in general in any like sport. Like,
and I think it's knowing your asymmetries too. Like everyone's different, man. Like so warm up, but then during your accessories, hey, throw in some of those. Hey, what are your weak areas? Hey, we know this glute's a weak area for you. We know this quad's a weak area. Hey, and throwing those accessories in just to build that up. But don't go crazy. Just keep it simple. Find what works for you. Stick to it and be consistent for 2 to 3 months before you say, hey, I'm not doing that anymore.
100%.
So,
dope.
Cool.
Dope.
So let's quickly look at your shoulder, give you a few shoulder stuff to do. Just to warm up your lats a little bit. I would say, hey, first get into it with the foam roller, but then this is gonna be a recovery. Like maybe at the end of your day, or like, hey, my shoulder's feeling tight.
So don't do this prior to lifting. Just stick with the bands that we're doing right now.
Yeah, I'm gonna show you a new one actually. I'm gonna show you a lat release or a dynamic lat stretch.
For before?
Before, yeah, exactly, yeah. So I think you already do it. It's like something similar. So, but this one is good for recovery. So what is recovery? After you work out, at the end of your day, hey, like I feel a little tightness, I just get into it with the ball or a foam roller in my lat. So just like what I was doing on the table, right? That helped so much because I got into the tissue. So, hey, I get on the foam roller like so. Remember this one? So you're gonna lay on your side, find that tenderness in the lat, and just hang out there and just breathe through it and release that tension. So try it out. So this will just a simple myofascial release, trigger point release, whatever you call it, on that lat. Because sometimes dynamically stretching it doesn't get to it by itself, right? You need something to work into it, right? Or to loosen up that tissue. Right there. You feel that tension release, right?
Yeah.
You feel it's tender, right?
Yeah.
Good. So I would say, hey, at the end of your day, like find 2 or 3 spots right up in there, just to release that tension. It's a good recovery just to get that to loosen up quicker. So, but before you squat, you got that, right?
Yeah.
Hey, roll up and down if you want to find another spot, though. All around there. You feel that, right?
And so this is something that you recommend just doing like every day, regardless if like I'm
Hey,
benching
we
or
know,
not?
we know at the end of your workout, definitely, that we know that area tightens up on you. So, hey, this is a good way to just loosen it up. Cool?
Yeah.
So then, hey, what's the dynamics? So dynamic is movement. So this kettlebell is like a dynamic movement stretch to warm it up. So for your lat, there's a few ways to hit it, right? But you can do it on the foam roller too. So, hey, thumbs up. You're sitting back like so. Your hands can be together too. You can hold that for 5 seconds and come back out of it. Here, you should feel it here, right? Mm-hmm. If you want to really focus on one side, you can just like twist your body this way. Breathe in 5 seconds, back out. 5 seconds.
And this one's prior to benching.
Yeah, exactly.
And probably
just
squatting too for low bar now.
Yeah, just to get your shoulders, because hey, your lats get you here, so we need to get your shoulders open to be able to get underneath the bar. So try this out. It's a good, actually, there's numerous number of ways to do it, but it's one way that we hit it. So you're here, up straight, you feel that here, right? Mm-hmm. And then you twist your body a little bit, you feel that more, right?
Yeah.
Good. Just 5 second hold and come back out of it. I mean, come back up, yeah, like that. Go back into it. Remember you used to do a groin stretch in this position too? Mm-hmm. Yeah, so this just hitting that lat and come back out of it. So that's a mobility, right? Mm-hmm. How do you loosen it up? But how do you keep it there? So I know we've worked on like rotations a lot because that was your issue, but this is a little different, right? How do you get your shoulders to stay back, get that lat to lock into place? So one of my favorite ones are here. I don't know if I ever showed you this. So you're gonna be here, shoulders back here, and then you're just gonna raise up, like lock back in. And then you can start adding this. So getting through this mobility like this.
I already know that's about to be tough.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
I already know. I can just look at
So
it.
it's just getting mobility in your shoulders, right? So you're locked here, raise up, good. Back down, go underneath. Yeah, get your butt, hands above you, good. Come back. Yeah, like that, and go up. Feel that burn?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is just a position that you don't get into because a lot of your exercises are rounding, forward facing. Really helps open up, get that mid back strong.
That wraps up today, guys. Super informative type of day, to different type of vlog style, but I think that it's super important for all of us to remember just like availability is the best ability that you can have. And so if you're not on the platform, if you're not in the gym, if you're not working out, if you're not training for whatever sport it is that you're doing, and you can't be on the field, on the platform, on the court, like you're useless. And so I think this is something that everybody can focus on just a little bit more and not have to overthink it. Just keep it simple, do it day in and day out, work as hard off the platform and outside the gym and outside the court and outside the field that you do when you're in there. And so with that, I'm gonna see y'all next week. We got 10 more weeks to Sheffield.